London pays unprecedented tribute to the man of the hour, General Dwight David Eisenhower. In a horse-drawn landau with Air Marshal Tedder, General Ike, as all Britain calls him, rides through flag-bedecked streets to a reception surpassing perhaps any ever accorded to a non-Britisher. In London's famous Guildhall, where Old Glory flies for a day, the Lord Mayor confers the freedom of the city and presents a sword of honor to the General, the historic sword worn by the Duke of Wellington of Waterloo. On the balcony of Mansion House, the Supreme Allied Commander appears with Prime Minister Churchill. The smiling Kansan, only American member of the exclusive British Order of Merit, wins the hearts of 30,000 Londoners with its simple sincerity.
Whether or not you know it, I am now a Londoner myself. I've got just as much right to be down in that crowd yelling as you have. The great difference that I see in this city and when I came 3 years ago is right here. We can now have crowds. There can be happy gatherings. You don't have to listen for a motor in the sky and wonder whether there's a pilot in the blankety-blank thing or not. To every Londoner that has ever taken one of my soldiers into his home, I say you'll always have my profound gratitude. You have done something in cementing bonds that must always remain between your country and mine, and into which scope must be brought Russia, France, China, all the other great countries that have helped to whip this Nazi, and we hope will quickly whip Japan.
Speaking for all Britain, Mr. Churchill voices an unusual tribute to the Yank commander, diplomat and statesman.
Ladies and gentlemen, you have just seen and listened to the words of a great commander, a man who has proved not only his capacity to organize and regulate the movements of armies, but to stir men's hearts, and who has shown a capacity for making great nations march together more truly united than they ever have before.
Paris adds its acclaim to the triumph of the United Nations commander. General de Gaulle presents the highest military decoration of free France, the Cross of Liberation to the liberator of Europe. The City of Light hails him as one of its own. Never before in history has a soldier inspired such admiration and trust in the millions of so many lands. To Washington's National Airport, aboard the plane that often flew President Roosevelt, General Eisenhower comes to the warmest welcome of all, a wifely greeting by Mrs. Eisenhower. Like any GI, the general says simply, "It's swell to be home." The biggest homecoming celebration in the history of the capital. The 54-year-old Midwesterner cheered by 1 million Washingtonians, shouting the whole nation's welcome. For General Ike, glorious as were the receptions and honors in London and Paris, this is different. These are his own countrymen voicing their affection. before a joint session of House and Senate with Supreme Court justices in attendance, General Eisenhower receives a rousing ovation. For the modest leader, this is a moment to remember. No orator, his talk is deeply impressive.
The battlefront and the home front. Together we have found a victory. But even the banners of triumph cannot hide from our sight the sacrifices in which victory has been bought. The hard task of a commander is to send men into battle, knowing some of them, often many, must be killed or wounded in order that necessary missions may be achieved. It is a soul-killing task. My sorrow is not only for the fine young lives lost or broken, but it is equally for the parents, the wives, and the friends who have been bereaved. The price they pay is possibly the greatest. The blackness of their grief can be relieved only by the faith that all this shall not happen again. In our minds and hearts, there is no slightest doubt that our people's spirit of determination, which has buoyed us up and driven us forward in Europe, will continue to fire this nation through the ordeals of battle yet to come. Though we dream of return to our loved ones, we are ready, as we have always been, to do our duty to our country, no matter what it may be. In this spirit, we renew our pledge of service to our Commander-in-Chief, President Truman, under whose strong leadership we know that final victory is certain.
In the White House garden, President Truman presents a second oak leaf cluster for the General's Distinguished Service Medal.
In accomplishing this great victory, his modesty, his impartiality, and his sound judgment, together with his great abilities as a soldier and as a diplomat, have won the confidence and admiration of our allies and the everlasting thanks of the American people.
No medals, no decorations can ever express the fondness and esteem of the nation for General Ike.